All right, let's talk about protein. If you're like most people, you're probably getting whiplash from all the conflicting advice out there, right? One day it's eat more protein, the next it's watch out, it's dangerous. You're just stuck in the middle. Well, today we're going to cut right through all that noise.
So let's just get right to it. We're going to tackle this one simple but really important question. And the way we're going to do it is by looking at what the actual evidence says. No opinions, no hype, just the data, so you can figure this out for yourself.
Okay, so first things first, we've got to understand the lay of the land. Because right now, the nutrition world is basically split into two super passionate opposing camps on this whole protein thing.
Yeah, in one corner, you've got this huge movement of people who are all about upping their protein. They're doing it for everything from building muscle to living longer. But then, in the other corner, you have a whole group of people saying, whoa, hold on, the official guidelines are fine and eating more is useless, or maybe even dangerous.
And you know what's wild? Both sides sound so convincing. But here's the thing. Passion doesn't make something true. Confidence doesn't equal scientific fact. The only thing that really matters is the data. So that's what we're going to do. For the rest of this explainer, we're tuning out all of the noise and just focusing on what the evidence actually says.
So you might be asking, where does all this confusion even start? Well, believe it or not, most of it boils down to just one specific number buried in an official government guideline.
It's called the Recommended Dietary Allowance. You've probably heard of it as the RDA. This is the official guideline from the US government that's supposed to tell us how much of any given nutrient we should be getting every day.
And for protein, that magic number is 0.8 grams per kilogram of your body weight. This single number is at the absolute center of this whole debate. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. What that number actually means has been completely misunderstood by almost everyone.
And this is the key, right here. The RDA was never, ever meant to be the best or optimal amount of protein for you. It was designed as the bare-bones minimum, just enough to keep an average, not very active person from getting sick with a protein deficiency. Think of it as a baseline for survival, not a roadmap for thriving.
And that right there brings us to the single most important idea that will clear up this whole mess, understanding the huge difference between what's just adequate and what's actually optimal.
I mean, think about it. Getting just enough protein to not get sick is a totally different ballgame from getting enough protein to, say, build muscle, feel strong, and stay healthy for the long haul. Just meeting the minimum isn't the same as actually optimizing your body to meet your goals.
And you can see it laid out really clearly here. On the one hand, you've got the RDA's goal, that 0.8 grams per kilogram, which is just about preventing deficiency. But look at the other side. If your goal is something like maximizing muscle growth, the science points to a totally different number.
And this isn't just a guess. The science is pretty solid here. Study after study shows that if you want to build muscle, the benefits keep climbing until you hit at least 1.6 grams per kilogram. That's literally double the RDA. And for some folks, that optimal number might be even higher.
All right, so the evidence for more protein, at least for certain goals, seems pretty strong. But I know what you're thinking. What about that other side of the coin? What about all the warnings, all the talk about it being dangerous?
This is the big one, isn't it? It's the fear that stops a lot of people in their tracks. It's the main argument you hear against higher protein diets. But the real question is, does modern science actually back up this fear?
Well, the short answer is not really. This whole idea that high protein is inherently dangerous, it mostly comes from these old anecdotal stories from like 100 years ago. We're talking way before modern food safety existed. And the crucial part is, these scary stories have never been repeated in any modern controlled scientific study.
Okay, so where does all this leave us? It actually leaves us on pretty solid ground. We've got a clear path forward that isn't based on fear or social media hype, but on just looking at the science logically. At the end of the day, this isn't about picking a side, you know? It's not about joining the high-protein team or the low-protein team. The real goal is to look at the evidence for yourself, think critically, and then make the smart choices that work for your body and your goals. And when it comes to protein, the science really is pretty clear.
So let's just boil it all down. Here are the key things to remember. First, the RDA, that's the floor, not the ceiling. It's the minimum. Second, if you have goals like building muscle, the evidence is strong that you should be aiming for at least double the RDA. And third, those old fears about high-protein diets being dangerous just don't hold up under the microscope of modern science. The most important thing, look at the evidence and decide for yourself.
And that brings us to one last question, and this one's for you.
Now that you know the difference between adequate and optimal, I want you to think about your own diet. Is it built just to get by? Is it just adequate? Or is it built to help you optimize your health, to really thrive? That's a choice only you can make.